Patrick Hughes, your opportunity to respond.
Well, I'd like to talk about President Obama's health care plan since one of my opponents brought it up. It's a huge structural problem. It's a government overtaking of our health care system. It'll cost my children and your children and their children trillions of dollars in structural debt and deficits. There is a way that we can make health care more affordable in this country. And I talk about it on the trail all the time. We have the greatest health care system in the world. But if we do three things, we can make it better by lowering costs and bringing up accessibility. One, allow people to shop for health insurance across state lines. If you do that, it'll drive costs down. Two, eliminate government mandates. The people can decide for themselves what coverage they want. We don't need the bureaucrats telling us what insurance to buy and what not to buy. And third, tort reform. Put a cap on non-economic damages so that our doctors stop practicing defensive medicine, including ordering tests like MRIs that drive their malpractice premiums up. And as a consequence, our health care costs will drop and we'll be able to have more affordable health care.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Charles Thomas, your next question is for Andy Martin.
Mr. Martin, we've heard all three of you tonight claim political ground to the right of Mark Kirk, who describes himself as a moderate Republican. Why do you believe that your brand of conservatism would be accepted by the majority of Illinois voters who in recent elections have supported moderate to progressive candidates?
The reason that I'm different is that I tell the truth. I like to tell people when they react to my ads, as you questioned earlier, the media, the Chicago Tribune and the Sun-Times have been lying about politics and Congress and Mark Kirk for so long that when they hear the truth, they're shocked. They're uncomfortable hearing these ugly truths about what goes on in the people's house. Where I'm different is I'm going to tell people the truth. And there are a lot of Democrats out there that don't want to vote for Pat Hughes, who supports right-to-work laws and eliminating unemployment compensation extensions and doesn't really have a sense of the poor worker that he claims to come from. I have a sense of the people. I grew up in a working family. My mother's 92 years old. She's retired. I have a great, deep sense of empathy, and I think people sense that. We were at a forum recently, and people said to me, I love your passion. And I do have a passion. It's been a passion for integrity and the truth and fighting corruption and making this a better country. I didn't just blow in like Mr. Hughes last year with a bogus PAC committee. 40 years ago, the government said Andy Martin is a leading conservative. None of the other candidates can match that record.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Patrick Hughes, your opportunity.
Charlie, the Democrats have sold people a bill of goods, and so have left-wing Republicans. We are at 11% unemployment under the rule of the establishment Republicans and Democrats in the state. We have an $11 billion budget deficit. This state is really a center-right state, particularly on economic issues, but we've lacked leadership in the conservative side of the Republican Party. Look, my values on economic issues, my values on social issues are the values of the vast majority of the people in the Republican Party and the majority of the people in this state. And there's a movement afoot now towards more Reagan conservative values. You see it with Bob McDonnell, who won in Virginia, and the great push that Scott Brown is making for Ted Kennedy's Massachusetts Senate seat. And he says so great that it's not Kennedy's seat, it belongs to the people. And he's right. I think this time, like no other, is a chance for us to put a Reagan conservative in Barack Obama's old Senate seat and turn this state red in the coming presidential years.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. John Arrington.
As I go throughout the state, everyone I talk to is concerned about jobs. That crosses Democrat, Republican, independents, and I am concerned about jobs and economic development. People see that, it relates to them. The principles that made our country what it is, these are the principles that we want to adhere to, and I want to stay with. For me, the partial birth abortion is just one of the worst things that we could do here in America. Alexis de Tocqueville, the great French philosopher, when he observed America, said America's great because America is good. And when America ceases to be good, America ceases to be great. What I'm saying crosses all party lines. And this is the time to take back our state. Out of control spending, everybody's concerned about it. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Arrington, thank you very much. Rebecca Sanchez, your question goes to Patrick Hughes.
Under a Democratic state government, the budget deficit has grown to a historic high. What would you do to lower the deficit?
It's hard to do from the United States Senate seat, but I would work with the Republican governor, and I hope to God that everyone out there thinks about electing one of our great Republican governor nominees. A couple of things. You have to break the ties between the Democrats and the SEIU. One of the problems is we have an unfunded structural pension deficit owed to state employees that's unsustainable. We need to get those pension plans in line with what is seen in the private sector. Second, you have to move the Medicaid program to be on a managed care system. It'll save $2.2 billion of the budget deficit. And you've got to lessen regulation in the state on business and lower taxes, particularly at the corporate level. The reason is when you lower taxes, economic growth occurs. When economic growth occurs, the pie grows. And when the pie grows, there's more revenue for the government to get. Under Democratic philosophies, since 2002, we're in this budget deficit. Under the leadership of a broken Republican Party, they've been complicit. It's time for new, bold leadership on economic virtues that can lead us out of this recession and get us back to prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. John Arrington.
Well, number one, I would vote against the out-of-control spending. I would not support the bailouts nor the government taking control of Wall Street or our automakers or industry. Second, I would recommend that all spending cuts go toward the deficit and not any additional spending. Also, a sunset clause so that certain appropriations will have to just stop. Lastly, we have to create an environment for our businesses to grow. You've got to create 80% of Americans work in small businesses. And one of the things that I would do is a top-to-bottom assessment of all the regulations that are hindering and hampering our businesses. And we've got to stop the legislation that is scaring our business, again, including the health care legislation as well as the cap and trade. You know, the signs are up, but sometimes it takes me a while to get going. But when I do get going, I'm ready.
Okay. Mr. Arrington, thank you very much. Andy Martin.
One of my dearest supporters, who's probably contributed above his means, is a retired Granite City steel worker in the United Steelworkers. Over the years, I've had a long record of working with labor unions, but at the same time standing against labor racketeering. There are solutions that can come from Washington to clean up the mess in Springfield. One of the things that I will do as a United States Senator is, if he's willing to keep working, keep Patrick Fitzgerald on the job and appoint racket-busting, crime-fighting United States attorneys for all the judicial districts to put these racketeers, who are blood-sucking thieves who live off the savings and the pension plans of hard-working auto workers and steel workers. The steel workers know who's for them, and the auto workers. It's Andy Martin, not slick-talking Patrick Hughes or fast-talking multi-million-dollar Mark Kirk, who's afraid to even face the people, who hasn't faced the people of Illinois once. He always goes into controlled, locked rooms where he can lock the people out. Andy Martin doesn't need a locked door. The people are on his side, not Patrick Hughes or Mark Kirk.